Hello my fellow YouTubers and subscribers, and welcome to my latest movie review, where today I review the latest film from M. Night Shyamalan, Old. So Old, this is the latest, well, I guess it's a horror movie, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and I believe it was based on a graphic novel, which is called Sandcastle. And the plot of the movie is as follows. A family on a tropical holiday discovers that the secluded beach where they are relaxing for a few hours is somehow causing them to age rapidly, reducing their entire lives into a single day. And that's the basic plot of Old. Old, you know, this movie is getting a, I don't know, sort of a weird reception, but then again it is a very weird movie. Old is... I don't know, it's a weird one. Well, I love the concept of the movie, and the ideas of the film are really quite interesting. I personally found this movie to be kind of a disappointment. Look, it's not horrible, but it's very poor, to be honest. I think the first two acts of the film are pretty good. I mean, it does drag a bit in the first act. It takes a while for them to get to the beach, but when they get to the beach and things start ramping up, I like the tension, as in what's causing them to age, you know, how other characters are psychologically being affected by this, and especially with the kids, how quickly they are aging, you know. It's really quite interesting to see that unfold. For me, what makes this movie such a disappointment is the ending. Oh, God, the ending was just... I get why they did what they did. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but the Shyamalan twist, as everyone calls it, where we go to a certain location at the end of the film and we find out what the hell these people at the resort are actually up to. It didn't really amount to much, if I'm going to be honest. There were just things about this film that don't make sense, like how the little boy at the beginning, you know, knew to give the note to Trent, and for Trent to then remember that as a means to escape the beach is really quite bizarre, to be honest. Like, this kid that gives him the note is actually like 5 years old. He's never been to the beach and he's never aged, and how does he know not to... Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. Also, I found some of the dialogue to be kind of cringy, like the scene with Trent and his friend at the beginning, where they're talking about growing up and getting a mortgage. Like, what? How the hell would a young 6-year-old kid know how to do that? That's just ridiculous. Or even know what a mortgage is. It's crazy. And actually, speaking of the acting, most of the cast are kind of very, very sort of hit and miss, to be honest. There's a few good people in there, but most of the acting is quite disappointing. Gael, García, Bernal as Guy, who's the father of, I think her name's Maddox, who's the daughter, and the son, who is Trent. And she, at the start of the film, is 11, and he, at the start of the film, Trent, is 6. And gradually they age to, well, when they're adults. And he is there with his wife, Prisca, who's played by Vicky. I thought Gael García Bernal was probably one of the better cast members, but Vicky I thought was very wooden in the film. I didn't think her performance really worked. I didn't really buy the family dynamic, and I know we were meant to think that there was a dysfunction with the family anyway, and that's fine, but I just couldn't really invest in these characters all that much. I didn't think they were that interesting, to be perfectly honest. Kids, I mean, Trent and Maddox, who they make it quite far into the film, but even then, I didn't really sort of care much about them. I cared more about what was happening to them in terms of the aging and how they, you know, how they were being affected by this psychologically. And that's one thing Shyamalan didn't make very clear with this film, is like, how much do their mental ages change? Physically, we see the characters age quite substantially, but with the kids, obviously, they aged quite substantially, but we don't know sort of in terms of their thoughts and their processes how much of their mental age changes. I suppose the answer really is yes to that question, because there's a scene when Maddox, when she's a teenager, talks about having all these thoughts and colours into her head, which I'm assuming is supposed to reference puberty, but I'm not entirely sure. And we also have a sequence where Trent and the other girl on the island, who's with the other family, Cara, when they're teenagers, they actually have sex, and then he gets her pregnant, and then weirdly enough she gives birth to the baby, and disaster strikes. Scenarios in the sort of first and second act of the film are interesting. Whether they all need to be there is another question. I didn't think the pregnancy stuff was all that necessary. I suppose it was good to show what would happen in terms of the perception of time of this beach. The pacing of the film is kind of uneven. Like, a lot of these sequences are very quick. Like, the pace of them is very fast. And like I said, the first act is a bit slow, so I thought the film never really established a secure momentum to sort of keep itself going. The ideas are very interesting in terms of the way it's visually presented and the way the characters age and what's sort of psychologically going on in this beach. And they can't actually leave the beach because they black out. Every time they walk through the cavern, they are trapped. They just black out. They go in the water as well, so they are really stuck. We have the other family who are Rufus Sewell as Charles. He's a doctor, sort of, I think a pediatrician. He starts to go a bit cuckoo, to be honest. It's a bit strange. And it's kind of unexplained how, like, the dramatic turn in his character, how he starts becoming this violent sort of killer, like, how much this is all sort of affecting him. He's almost on having a bit of a breakdown, which is really weird. And then there's his wife, Crystal, who's basically a supermodel, and she's very obsessed with her looks and everything. And then when she starts to age, she really can't deal with it. So yeah, as you can see, there's a huge ensemble cast, and the acting is kind of hammy for the most part. The best actors in the film, actually, I would have to say, are Ken Leung and Nikki Amuka-Bird as Patricia and Jarin. I think they are they are the best actors in the film. Jarin is a nurse, and he's quite useful in certain situations, and Patricia suffers from epilepsy, which is interesting. One of the best things about this film, though, is the camera work. This movie is very well shot. It looks great. The cinematography looks really, really good. It's just the script, I think, is really all over the place, and the ideas presented are good, but they're very badly executed. I hate to say this, but even some of the more horrific moments do come off as a bit ridiculous. And the location of the resort is quite nice, don't get me wrong. There are great aspects to the movie, but I feel like the movie's better technically than it is dramatically. And I don't care about these characters. I think they're kind of boring, lifeless characters. Like I said, Jarin and Patricia, they're probably the only ones that are worth investing in. There's also this other guy called Mid-Side Sedan, who's already there on the beach, and his girlfriend he was there with him the night before. She strips down naked and goes into the water, and then we don't see her again until the next day in some form. And he has actually got he's actually sick himself, and his nose is bleeding, and apparently he met this girl online, and they all, and through some illness support group or something, and they decided to hook up and go on holiday. So there's a lot of people involved in this film, and it's certainly interesting to see how each character reacts differently to the situation and to what's going on. And I like that the movie sort of, you know, had the emphasis on the sort of psychological effects, but again, it's just the script. Shyamalan is not the best writer, you know. I just think that a lot of the dialogue is very corny and cheesy, and the acting is over the top and hammy, or sometimes even underplayed, and even some of the more emotional scenes, especially the scene with Maddox and her mum when she discovers the truth about her mum. I mean, I don't know, if you're a fan of M. Night Shyamalan, you might dig it, but I just personally couldn't get into it. I liked the concepts and everything, but I just couldn't really buy it. I thought it ended up coming off as really ridiculous and weird, rather than kind of subversive and interesting. And it was also kind of slow. It was a bit slow to begin with, and then the pacing was so ultra quick with each of the incidents that were happening. I'm not going to spoil all of them for you, but some of them are really, really quite strange. And I would argue about the pregnancy one. I don't think that really needed to be there, but there we go. So, I guess I'm going to have to give Old a 4 out of 10. The music score. The music score's pretty good as well, but there's only a few things I can say. Yeah, the music score, technical aspects, you know, like camera work and stuff. The story, interesting concept, but badly executed. Locations, that's kind of it. There's not much else to it. Very bad acting, poor characters, poor script. It's just not very good. But nevertheless, you might say different. So what do you think of Old? Please comment down below, let me know. And stay tuned next time for more movie reviews. So until then, I'm Mr. Tarnus11. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye for now.